All right. I see our numbers ticking up. Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to everybody not on the East Coast. I see our numbers still bumping up, so we're going to give it just a couple minutes before we dive in. Apologies, we're aligning a lot of moving pieces this morning, so just checking in as a team to make sure that we're all on the same page. And we will be getting started here in just a couple of seconds. All right. Well, as a reminder, I know we're a little bit late, so we're going to go ahead and just dive in right now. But as a reminder, please, if you have questions, please drop those into the question and answer tab. That's going to be much easier for us to track than in the chats. Thank you for all the engagement in the chats. I see people greeting from everywhere, from Louisiana to San Diego to South Carolina, Colorado, all over San Antonio. Um, I love it. I love it. Mississippi, California, Nebraska, Northern Virginia. I can't even keep up. Everywhere. We got the whole country represented. No surprise. No surprise to that as well. All right, everyone. Well, let's go ahead and dive in. Again, just a reminder, if you have questions, please use the Q&A button rather than the chat. It is much easier to keep track of and to see there. It is and yes, great to see everyone from every corner of the country. Um, as well. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. So the want to start, of course, with the updates, and the short answer is not a whole lot. It's continuing move forward in the directions that we have been talking about. It does feel, I will say, that pressure is brewing. The pressure is mounting. That there is a lot more tension that is growing these last couple of days than I think we felt the weeks before. We are now in day 23 of the federal government shutdown, and we are days away from the first Head Start programs, unfortunately, having to close their doors. The Congress is continuing to vote. Well, the House is continuing to be out. The House has still not come back to DC since September, end of September, and that is their strategy again, is to put the pressure on the Senate, and namely on the Senate Democrats, to acquiesce to what they would like in terms of a short-term continuing resolution. The folks on the Senate side are continuing to vote. They had their 12th vote now on the Republican proposal for a short-term extension that did fail for a 12th time. And at this point, it is a little unclear about what direction they're going to go in next. There has been some talk of a desire to want to start negotiating, which to this point they really haven't negotiated. That is kind of where it is. The Republicans have basically said, no, we just need to move forward, keep the government open, and do this. The Democrats have said, no, we want to negotiate. And the president and others have basically said, no need to do that. We just need to keep the government open, and then we can talk after that. So that's really where the political divide is right now, where they're trying to kind of, again, still paint the other side as it's their fault, it's their issue. The reality is, I think from the polling that I've seen, everybody thinks it's really everybody's issue, and that this is an issue across parties and across lines. Um, Although it differs a little bit in some areas, but we don't need to get into that because frankly, that's not helpful for where we stand. The bad news, of course, is the fact that the longer the shutdown runs, the more impact and challenges that we will see and will take place. Just a reminder, I'm seeing some questions coming into the chat. We are going to have a much easier time keeping up with your questions and making sure we address them if you put the questions that you have into the Q&A, not into the chat. We'll do our best to keep up with it, but the Q&A is the easiest way to make sure that we can get to your questions. So, with that as background, we'll say that NHSA has been in close touch with the October and November one Head Start programs. We are aware that one of the October 1 programs is running out of funds or has already run out of funds, and that they are in position to close their doors starting on Monday. And then we have heard from a lot of other Head Start programs that are November 1 programs that they are doing, again, everything that they can to figure out how they can keep their doors open. But the reality is that they believe that they will have to close their doors in November if the government shutdown stretches to that. Programs are doing everything that they possibly can. We have continued to reach out to Congress, to the administration, to inform them and let them know about the importance of making these reimbursable. So basically, that programs who are using other resources will get reimbursed for those. Again, we have not been able to guarantee that it will take place, but we can say, based on past history, that is
It's breaking
operated.
up.
And when you look at the statute, that is
Tommy, you're breaking up.
after a previous shutdown.
Do you think we can just pivot to some of these questions? Bob, Kathleen, and can we just start ticking away at them?
I think we
Tommy, you were
could.
frozen for a bit.
Yeah, no, I heard. There's nothing I can do. It's one of those like,
Okay.
Can you guys hear
Yeah.
me now though?
Yes.
Those
Yes.
Howard Dean moments. All right. Well, that was a deep cut political reference for those of you that might have gotten that. Anyway, so I forgot exactly where I was, but or where I cut off. Do you remember where I cut off, Anne?
No, I got caught up in your frozen face.
Always a joy in front of over 1,000 people too, right? Gotta love it. So thanks for bearing with us. We have to laugh in these moments because otherwise, my goodness, what a world it is. So let's just keep moving forward. And if I cut out again, Kathleen, can you jump in about? Thank you, Julie. If I cut out again, you can jump in with the update on child nutrition, which we'll get to in a second. So what I was mentioning was about reimbursement, and that we have heard from some legislative sources that there is language that still exists based off of the last shutdown. That would mean that if when they reopen that there would be backdated funds, that funds would be reimbursed, and that again is based off of current statute. Now they could change the statute. That's why we can't say definitively, but it is highly unlikely that would happen. And I think, as I've said, I don't remember if it was on this call or on one of the calls with the October 1 and November 1 programs. We feel very, very confident in our ability as a political movement, as Head Start, as a political force, to be able to make sure that Congress does do that. So that is the stance that we're in, and we're laying the groundwork to be able to push that. I think it's really important that for all of you, all of you, whether you are a November 1 grant or not, that you do send up a message to Capitol Hill. Use our Take Action webpage that will encourage the government to reopen and will open the doors to at least allow us to be able to make that case down the road on reimbursement if we need to. Again, we feel confident about it, but that's just kind of where things stand. Beyond that, I know we've gotten a lot of questions about child nutrition. That has been a big area of worry, and obviously so. That is such a huge part of Head Start, and also something our families and children really rely on and depend on. And so Kathleen's done a lot of digging into this because there's a lot of different elements and backgrounds between SNAP and WIC and CACFP, the Child and Adult Care Food Program, things of that kind too. So Kathleen, I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks, Tommy. Hi, everybody. And I'm going to try and spare as much of the technical details as I can, because this gets really wonky with respect to moving money around in different ways at the federal level. But let's start with SNAP. SNAP's about a $9 billion program per month. And there is a $5 to $6 billion amount in a contingency fund to be used in emergency or anomaly cases like this. However, $5 to $6 billion is less than $9 billion, number one. Number two, the administration has not committed to using this contingency fund at all even though they're required to by law. So it makes things very unclear in terms of what is going to happen as of November 1st. Um, and I would also note a significant day, which is the close of business tomorrow. And the money needs to go to states by COB tomorrow in order for states to be able to load up everybody's SNAP benefit accounts by November 1st. So it's very unclear what is going to happen, where the money is going to come from. Also, I will note that states are saying, hey, we are not actually equipped to hand out partial benefits, like if you guys give us part of the money. And so, how that would be handled if indeed they do tap into the contingency fund, that's really unclear. So, I said I wasn't going to get into too much detail, but that just shows you just how muddy things are with respect to SNAP. And I think the other thing worth noting is that the amounts of money we're talking about and the millions and millions of people who receive SNAP benefits means that this is not an easy program to backfill with other sources, with other pots of money, essentially. That's SNAP. WIC. So WIC was in a different position as of October 1st, and therefore has already been needing, for the last 2 weeks, has been needing, or week, the second half of October, has already been needing to be dipping into contingency funds, specifically because despite Trump saying we're going to use tariff money to pay for WIC, that's not actually possible. And so they've been dipping into the SNAP contingency fund already to the tune of about $500 million. So what happens with WIC at the end of the month is also unclear. Number 3, CACFP. So CACFP, USDA has indicated that it's fine through the end of October. This is money that does not need to be appropriated. However, they are not responding to inquiries about what happens after October 31st. And, they have also been subjected to regional office shutdowns, et cetera, et cetera. And so staff are simply not responding. So including to members of Congress, I was talking with Senator Murkowski's staff person last night about this, and they have not been able to get a response either. So there's a lot of uncertainty. Another little weird thing that I wanted to mention, because it is relevant to this community, our Head Start community, is that even though we don't know of benefits with respect to SNAP, back at SNAP, if SNAP benefits are going to be able to be paid on November 1st, there's still staff working to permit the new folks to enroll in SNAP, which is interesting because, like someone pointed out to me yesterday, so we're able to enroll folks in SNAP, but then not promise them benefits. So let's set aside that weirdness. I know that other folks had been talking about, using SNAP for eligibility purposes and how is that going to work? And it seems like this process is supposedly still underway. Now, if that's not what you're hearing in your state, I would love for you to just put that in the chat and share that, but wanted to point that out. So that is my update, hopefully not too in the weeds, and I'll turn it back to you, Tommy.
Kathleen, can you just say one more time, high level CACFP update is we're good for a certain period of time and then we don't know.
We're good through October 31st. November 1st, have not been able to get additional information out of USDA. But CACFP money does not need to go through the appropriations process. So it's a little different.
So the best thing for folks to do is to reach out to your state CACFP administrator. It does differ state by state. Different states are in different places than others. I'm seeing folks writing in the chat differences going on in Oklahoma and Michigan, in Idaho. Also, a comment that I want to flag from Stacy about LIHEAP, Low Income Heating and Energy Assistance Program, that has been frozen. And I know that there are some questions about CSBG weatherization and a lot of those other programs that provide a lot of support to community action. CSBG is the Community Services Block Grant. Again, all of those are really driven by states. So the best place is to start by talking to your state or tribe, in Stacy's case, the tribal government. So they are the ones that are going to be able to have the direct connection. And we're hearing, yes, Karen, just like what you're saying from Montana, I think a lot of states also don't know from the federal government. That's why they have not been saying, we don't know if we can continue to fund CACFP or some of these other types of programs in that interim. But again, they're going to be able to provide the best detailed information to you. And so would encourage you all to be certain to reach out to them, folks at your state level, state child nutrition office, as well. Thank you, though, Kathleen, for that background. So those are some of the big high level updates. I wanted to flag a couple of additional things. Again, just a reminder, appreciate all the comments coming into the chat. These are great. I would ask that you can please drop your questions into the Q&A tab, and we'll get to those in just a couple of minutes here. We're gonna have like 2 or 3 more things to talk about, and then we'll get to the Q&A. Okay, so that is one high level thing. One other piece that we had heard recently is a number of states are looking to leverage and trying to support. Wasi, I don't know if I caught the $9 billion question. What was this one? Did somebody catch that on our team? What the $9 billion
Yes,
question was?
the question was, when Kathleen, you talked about the contingency fund, and I think you said it cost, is it 9 billion or 9 million a month? And I think
Billion. It's 9
Yeah.
billion with B. It's a
a
massive.
month.
Mhm.
And there was a question, is the SNAP contingency fund being used to fund WIC?
At this time, that is happening, is our understanding, my understanding as of recently. So yeah.
These are highly technical questions, so thank you all for them. So that's kind of where we stand on some of those broad programs. Again, for Head Start, I think it's important to flag and to acknowledge that number one, that Head Start programs across the country continue to be open. That children are being served, staff are still working, all programs are operational. If the shutdown stretches into next week, we will see one program in Florida that will be having to face with closing. And then if the shutdown stretches into November, that is when we'll see an additional 134 programs impacted. Not all of them will close, but a number of them are going to have to close, unfortunately. We have been advising them and continually talking to hearing from what their process is, how they're focused on this, that folks are in different places. Some are able to leverage other resources in the community from schools or from states that in order to keep Head Start services operational. I've heard of a couple states, I think Oregon, Minnesota, in particular, that are providing support to the Head Start grant recipients in the short term. I've also heard of other state administrators saying that they're looking into the TANF Rainy Day Fund as a way to tap into that for a short period of time and then reimbursing that afterwards. This is something, again, it's your state is going to have to make these decisions, but I do think that this is a good reason why it's important to stay in touch with your state association. They are going to know what's happening best at the state level and where those opportunities are. I know that the state associations are working with their governor's office. I know in a number of states, if not everywhere, to try to see if there's ways that states can support that as well. Again, we are hopeful that the government shutdown will be resolved before any of this stuff hits, but there is a reality at which that this stuff is coming fast and furious. The best way, though, I'm seeing some questions and comments and things of this kind. We NHSA does not know for sure, and we cannot say across the country every program will close on this date or this many programs are going to close on this date. There's a lot of differences, and this is the beauty of Head Start. This is one of those times where it actually is a perfect example of why Head Start is federally to local funded, why that's a strength. Because it does help local community-based organizations leverage what resources they have and partner with folks in their community to bring those types of supports together. So the best way, if you have questions about what's happening in your program, talk to your program leadership. They are the ones who are going to know. They are the ones who will have an idea about when their program will be about when your program might be impacted by this. Again, the majority of programs, 90% of Head Start programs, actually a little bit more than that, will not be impacted still directly in terms of being able to access funds by November 3rd or November 1st. November 3rd is the Monday, November 1st is a Saturday. So when that Monday, November 3rd happens, however, I do know a lot of those programs have been reaching out and having to inform staff that, hey, this is as far as we can operate. We're going to do everything that we can to keep our doors open. And that's kind of a key message that we want to continue to lift up. The press is very interested. We've been hearing a lot of press inquiries and our press releases and announcements and talking points and all of the work that I know all of you have been doing. I'm seeing in the chat and in the comments, a lot of folks have been doing a lot of individualized press efforts. Really, thank you for all of that. There's some great articles that are out there telling the story of the impact of the government shutdown on Head Start, and we want to continue that forward. I mean, our key message on all of this is that that children and families should not be collateral damage to political gridlock and to political stalemate, and frankly to politics. And that is what we are pushing forward. So I think it's important in talking to press and navigating that. It's important not to say, well, it's the president's fault or it's the Senate Democrats' fault or it's the this or the this. That's not our job. Our job is to say this is ludicrous. We should not be, this should never be happening to children and families. Our nation's leaders need to find a way to figure this out. That is a strong enough message that I think makes is both resonant, but also very, very honest and truthful, and can help us maintain the 60 years, 6+ decades of bipartisan support that Head Start has had. Every U.S. president since President Lyndon Baines Johnson has supported Head Start, and we've even seen this in President Trump's budget, where there is level funding and support for Head Start there as well. So just an important reminder on that. Second is that whenever there's a lot more press and people talking about Head Start, it's going to be important to know, important for us to keep in mind that there's going to be a lot of people also trying to use Head Start for political purposes. That is a classic thing. We always have seen it happen. Republicans have done it. Democrats have done it. And so I want to just encourage all of you to be aware and I think just keeping your eyes open when folks might be looking to leverage Head Start for political purposes, trying to say, oh, well, it's the Republicans' fault or it's the Democrats' fault or anything like that. That's not what our key point is. Our key message is this is about kids and families. This is bigger than anything else that we're talking about in DC, and this is an absolute shame that our country has not figured this out for children and families. The fact that they're the ones who are going to be impacted and hurt as a result of the shutdown and the extended shutdown that we're in the midst of right now. Okay, so lastly that I wanted to mention is that we have a number of new resources. So first of all, we have we switched all of our tools thanks to a couple of suggestions into a link tree format. So we'll drop a link to the link tree for everyone here in the chat. We will have that in there. Jamie, to your point, there is a template letter for your congressional representatives in that link tree, in the resource, the folder that says it's like additional resources or something like that within that link tree. When you go there, there's a number of resources. Two that I want to point out. There's a folder, one that links, well, actually a couple that I want to point out. One that links to all of the resources that we've put together. This includes press release templates. This includes messages to families that you could send, whether you are a 10-1 and 11-1 grant program or you are a program that is not 10.1 or 11.1. Those are all in the Shutdown resource folder. There's a template letter to Congress that you can send if you have questions on who to reach out to or who to talk to. It also gives the contact for Bob Beeson, our Senior Director of Government Affairs here, who can help you assist with any of those. There's talking points that are in there, and we will continue to add additional resources there as well. Also in the link tree. We're really excited to share. We just published yesterday our state by state impact map, and this lists the impact of the programs that are impacted by the government shutdown on October 1st and November 1st. It puts it in there, I believe, by state. I believe by congressional district as well. I'm not. Yes, I'm seeing nodding heads on there too. And you can look at that and note where in states and in communities we're seeing the most impact and the most number of children and families served. Please share this widely. Put this on social media. Put this out there. Whatever this may be, it's an incredibly helpful tab. And again, you can look at that both at the state level, and I think if you go at the very bottom to the next page, I think it says 1 of 2. If you go 2 of 2, that takes you to the congressional district level data as well. Thank you, Courtney, for showing all of that. So play around with that, look at that. I believe you should be able to find it right off the homepage. And if not, our team needs to look into that to get that updated. Thanks, Myra, for flagging that. Make it easier to find. I know it's within our press resource page, but we do need to make it easily linked. And then finally, we have on the link tree all of the other resources, the Zoom calls, some of the surveys. If you are an October 1 or November 1 grant, if you are not, please don't take that survey, please. And other resources, past calls, things of that kind. This will all live in this space. We'll continue to add resources into here as we have more. And just if there's other things that you all want to see or could find useful, just drop us an email. Shoot us a note. shutdownsupport@nhsa.org. Again, shutdownsupport@nhsa.org would be the way to ask any questions, and our team gets through it and can navigate those as much as we can. Finally, I want to just add that we are right now we're interacting and talking just with the October 1 and November 1 folks. For those of you that are December 1, I know you're starting to get nervous too. We will be transitioning and looping you into these conversations and sharing with you what the October 1 folks are as we get into November, into probably past next week and into November if the shutdown still continues. But we will look to be doing some opportunities for you to discuss as community leaders or as grantees who are in a similar situation, understand what the November 1 folks, how they considered it, how they thought about it, what questions they might have, these types of things. This is all stuff that I think we'll be continuing to loop you all into. More to come on that if not next week, certainly the first week in November, but probably even next week, we'll be starting to loop in the December 1 folks. Again, if a government shutdown ends, then we won't. And so our fingers are crossed that we don't have to. No offense. Although we would love to talk with all of you, we also know that there's a lot of other things that you would rather be focusing on than this as well. Okay, so let's dive into questions with our remaining half hour. So there is a question that I want to start with that was posed to us after our resident expert, the one who's answering all of the questions at every hour of the day and night, is Ann Linehan. And so, Ann, there's a question that came in about monitoring and about where things stand with monitoring. Do you want to start with that one, and then we'll dive into the remaining questions?
Sure. The question came up and it was related to, I had made the comment that the protocols are much shorter, but they don't have citations tethered to each area that's being probed. And someone asked, well, with the lack of citations, kind of give us more flexibility. I think the answer really is no. But I will say this. I am absolutely convinced that OHS's intentions were it was well intended to say, can't we make the monitoring process less onerous? And I think it also has to do with, there's difficulty getting reports timely. And so how could it be truncated where they could still feel like they had an ability to assess whether or not the program was doing what it ought to be doing? The proof is going to be in the implementation. I do know that, Melanie, thank you for your comments. Melanie wrote us a very long note about what was not a positive experience in an FA1. So we want to capture what the experiences are really early on so we can provide feedback to the Office of Head Start. And I can tell you, Tala Hubin is very interested in feedback, because if they have to make adjustments, I think they will. I think the other thing that has been a disadvantage to all of us, that the 2 webinars that were scheduled, that were going to give us a deeper dive into the protocols, were canceled. And those webinars may have answered some of the questions or concerns that we have now. But we just want to assure you that we have OHS's ear on this. And what Tala has conveyed is, I just don't want to hear just about the negative experiences, but if there are recommendations as to how to improve it. So I think I answered that to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything?
Yeah, thank you, Ann. And I'm sorry?
Did I miss anything that you want me to touch on there?
No, I think that was great. I think that was great. I think the only thing I just want to, just very high level, I know we've been talking about this a lot, so I just want to reiterate in case folks haven't heard this. Monitoring is still taking place. If you have issues or concerns with your monitoring coming in, especially those of you that are October 1 or November 1 grants, it's important to just submit that in Head Start Enterprise System. NHSA did send a letter to the deputy assistant secretary yesterday, basically calling for them to stop doing monitoring visits, period, for those programs that are October 1, November 1, and a few other things. We will drop that link. That message literally just got sent up to the assistant secretary, and so that link will be available in the link tree later this afternoon. We're going to be looking to add that in, just so you can see that, and probably on the NHSA website as well. But wanted to let you know that we are in touch with the administration about that. And I want to reiterate something that Ann said. We know monitoring is moving forward. The challenge is that monitoring is undergoing some changes. The administration has stated very explicitly that they want to see they want to see this process improved. They want to see it simplified. They want to see it improved in a lot of ways. And I think that we're seeing the beginnings of that. However, it's really challenging given that there's a government shutdown and we haven't been able to get all of the information and the vision behind it, even though it's being implemented right now. And I think that is a victim of the shutdown. To Ann's point, though, we are absolutely going to be wanting to work with all of you as the year progresses, ideally as the government reopens, to figure out what else we need to be doing and pushing for in terms of monitoring. I love, Ann, your point about let's talk about what's not working, but let's also talk about what could be done better, and how these types of things could be reinforced. So that is something that I know we'll be considering.
Tommy, I
Real
just
quick,
have
and then
two
we have a
things
ton
to-
of questions. Yeah,
Yep.
go ahead, Ann.
You talked about folks entering in their concerns in HSES if they have a monitoring scheduled and they may not even be open. Also, you should be emailing Tala Hubin to request a rescheduling. And I would suggest you also should be notifying your review team leader that you don't even know if you're going to be in business, therefore you're requesting a rescheduling. We need to document it as many places as
I
possible.
think that's right. And I think that you're in a, yeah. Anyway, yes, I think that that's exactly right. Know that is something that they are trying to avoid as much as possible, although they also have a lot of monitoring reviews to do, so they don't want to get too far behind as well. All right, well, let's dive in and see if we can get through as many of these as we can. So if we do not have a 5-year contract in place by January 1st, which is the grant start date, are we legally able to provide Head Start early Head Start services? We submitted our 5-year grant application at the end of September. The answer I would, and Ann, I should actually probably defer to you to make sure I get the wording right on that. So how would you respond to that?
Well, I think it's really kind of the same situation that most grantees are in 11-1s. You still are designated as a Head Start grantee. I think you need to make the decision, and hopefully you're not going to have to make that decision, whether or not you have other resources that you can leverage to continue to provide services, or whether or not you have to make the decision to temporarily suspend services. But you're still considered legally a Head Start designated program grant recipient, but it's about your ability, individual program decision. Can we cobble together some funds and continue for a period of time, or do we make the decision to furlough or lay off our staff?
I think that that's a really good point, and with an understanding that especially those of you that are getting a non-competitive renewal, the automatic 5-year grant renewal, that if you're able to continue operating services, you should. I don't want to say anything and jinx anything, Jennifer, but I would also be very surprised if a shutdown lasts into late December or January, but we shall see. Next question. Can you talk about the Head Start Protection Act proposal by Congresswoman Maxine Waters? Bob, I'll turn to you on this, but I do want to just acknowledge this is an example of someone who cares deeply about Head Start trying to do something. But go ahead, Bob, and see what else
Yes,
you want to add.
I will say exactly that. The Congresswoman does care deeply about Head Start. It is a partisan bill. It's got a lot of support among Democrats, but it is a very flawed piece of legislation. I have to be honest. I spent a lot of time talking with the Congresswoman's staff trying to get it tweaked. It says that state, federal, or excuse me, that state or local governments or school districts that provide funds to keep a Head Start program operating will be reimbursed. It doesn't say which Head Starts are eligible, which government will reimburse them, or where any such funding would come from. So it's really a messaging bill. It's not a bill that is going to do anything to help, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah. It is also a partisan piece of legislation. Just so for all of your knowledge, NHSA does not endorse legislation that is not bipartisan. Or excuse me, I said that right. There's too many negatives on that one. We only endorse pieces of legislation that are bipartisan. That's the other way to put it. So, but again, want to just really thank the Congresswoman. She's obviously been a huge supporter of Head Start throughout her entire tenure, and she wants to be able just to draw attention, and that's what I think that this bill will do. There are a number of other questions. Let's see. I just lost my one I was about to go to. There we go. Our program is with the school system, who is our grantee. The school attorney has recommended that the superintendent either fire all the Head Start staff or RIF them, reduction in force, RIF. Do we have anything that will protect us from this? This is a tricky one because it is up to each individual program to do so. However, we do believe that that this is temporary. Generally, that's why a lot of programs look to use the term furlough. There is legal background on there, and I'm not a lawyer, and we are not giving legal advice. So I want to just acknowledge that the attorney might have more information on that than not. I think it's important to engage the superintendent, to engage the school board with this, and to be able to share just the impact that those decisions will be. These are really tough decisions. Programs are trying to keep open, but if they're not able to keep open, there are issues and challenges that they run into. Yeah, Dr. B, you have a deep knowledge of the K-12 system. Do you want to
Well,
add
I
something?
don't, I wish I had a specific answer. I looked in the Q&A and this person listed their question as anonymous. If you don't mind emailing me, I had a very similar conversation yesterday with another grant that is county owned, but risking pretty much threatening the same thing. So I'm just wondering if there are multiple folks out there in similar situations where your grant's held by a school system or a government, like that's a very different structure. And if we're seeing this trend, maybe we need to bring those folks together to have a conversation. I just want to make sure. I was going to go and grab that person's name, but I don't see it. So I'm going to put my email in the chat. Please reach
Or
out.
just email shutdownsupport@nhsa.org, who
Yeah.
that person was, and we'll make sure to connect you to Dr. B as well.
For sure. And if there are anybody else on this call listening going, oh my gosh, we're a school system grant and we're having the same issue. We need to bring you guys together because we can be more helpful if we're working collaboratively.
And we do have some, Debbie has a lot of really good, sorry, Dr. B has a lot of really good connections as well with the School Superintendents Association, who run a really wide network of school superintendents. And so if there are ways that we can help, we will. Jill, absolutely agree. Engage Policy Council along the way on that. That is a really good idea as well. Thank you for flagging that. All right. Sorry, I keep scrolling down, and then when the question addresses, we miss it. Little off topic, but if someone has gone through the FA1 format, can you share? We will look to provide some supports on this, Debbie. This is probably something that we should look to do, is to bring a couple of folks who might be able to share their experience in maybe in the next couple of weeks about this. So we'll try to find opportunities for that. Grace, unfortunately, we don't have time right now to offer somebody else's experience, but just stay tuned. And I love that idea. We should be able to pull something like that together. Apologies, this is not a shutdown related question. We're in the Bay Area and are increasingly concerned about ICE raids, that's Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and the impacts on our families. Have there been any reports of ICE presence or activity at Head Start programs across the country? So short answer is yes. Longer answer is not specifically to come at Head Start. So we have heard of a couple instances, especially in, I think, Southern California, where, and I think Illinois as well, where there were where there was ICE presence outside of Head Start programs. I believe there's one even in Indiana, who out close to a Head Start program, there was an ICE activity that did have an impact on some of our families. They were not, however, trying to target the Head Start program. It was happenstance that they were in the area or outside or these types of things. The best thing I would encourage everyone to do is, first of all, make sure that you are sharing with your families about what their rights are, what their abilities are, how to navigate these types of situations. And I also think that it's important that all of your staff are aware about what your protocols are when law enforcement comes to the doors. In case ICE did come into the Head Start property, you have protocols for this. Same thing as if police departments or others came to your programs. You have protocols and processes and procedures and rights and all of those things. And so I think that that's a good reminder of what you can do there too. Yeah, seeing a couple of comments in the chat about that as well. Thank you. This is a good thing for us to continue to talk about, and one that will continue beyond the shutdown. Next question. Do you have any advice if we have a federal review scheduled on the day our new grant is supposed to start and having received funding? Who do we notify? Not exactly sure that and having received funding piece means, but Anne, what's the best way to be in touch around federal reviews?
Well, again, I think if you're an 11-1, you have really a lot of momentum to submit a request for rescheduling. And I think we talked about you should send the email to Tala Hubin. If the federal team leader has been in touch with you, you should write them and let them know that you've requested a rescheduling, and you should put it in HSCS to your program specialist to say, we don't even know if we're going to be open. This is not a good time. Please reschedule.
All right. Another one. Families are asking if they would need to reapply if we have a pause in services due to a lack of funding. No is the answer to that. And I think I would just, again, if you need to put an extra documentation, just that we are about how you're going on a pause and that families are still considered to be enrolled in your program, even if your program is closed, that would be the way to approach that.
Mm-hmm.
Another question, I'm hearing that President Trump has indicated those federal employees that have been part of the RIF, the reduction in force, are not going to be rehired. Any thoughts on that? That generally is what happens when they do a reduction in force. I think that it's important to acknowledge that there is legal action on this. There is some court proceedings that have blocked the firing of federal employees. Again, no one at the Office of Head Start, but there have been folks at the Early Childhood Development Department overseeing the Office of Early Childhood, effectively overseeing the Preschool Development Grant Program. And I know with the community Office of Community Services, who administer the community action agencies, there have also been some substantial reductions in force, as well as to special education staff at the Department of Education. I would not anticipate that they are going to be rehired, but again, there is still question as to actually will they be RIFed or not, and that is something we'll be keeping an eye on. I do think it's important to acknowledge also that a lot of the president's remarks in this shutdown conversation are designed, and they're very intentional to be part of a negotiation, right? To be a part of the dynamics around there. And the president has said some things that have drawn more uncertainty or worry. And I think that there was intention behind that to bolster and kind of create a stronger negotiating position. So I think it's important to keep that in mind when we're seeing these types of things come forward. What are thoughts on using the OHS nutrition supplement to support the loss of SNAP benefits for enrolled families? Activity would be supporting local food bank on reservation that would include the SNAP items for younger children. I would say, and Anne, I see you shaking your head, so I think the short answer is that's probably not allowable unless it's explicitly the activity that was called out in your what you received that grant to do. So if that was in the same space, then I think that that could tie in, but I would be a
Mhm.
little hesitant of not going there as well. Anything quick to add?
Tom, yeah, the only thing that I would want to add to that is obviously that was a very high priority program by RFK. So I think it would be very dangerous to do anything else with the money than what was approved. That said, if you have extra funds in your budget and you can move some monies around from budget item to budget item and put more money in your food, sort of the food and nutrition category, there's no reason why you couldn't buy more food, stock up a little bit more, so you're feeding children, even higher, more nutritious meals than you might not have had an opportunity to do. I mean, I think there are some things you can do within your current budget, within the program, but giving money to a food bank would not be acceptable.
Yeah.
Or giving,
Thank you, Anne. That's a
supporting, yeah.
really good twist on ways to think creatively and things that we can do about some of that as well. Another really good question here. When the government opens back up, will the powers that be speed through grant approvals in order to make sure grantees receive funding as soon as possible? Or do you think there will be additional delays to go through the approval process? So this is a really important question. I think that the short answer to this is yes, they are going to be speeding through approvals, but they still have processes that they have to go through. So this is an issue that that we are going to be talking a little bit more with the 10 and 11-1 grants. It's not like if the government reopened tomorrow that all of a sudden you would receive your grant awards later in the day or even by Monday. This does take time to go through. There are some things that programs will have to navigate. There are the back and forths that you go through on your grant proposal and the first submission that you have and things like that. I think it's important to acknowledge that for those of you who are October 1, November 1, and even December and January 1, your grants have not gone through the extra scrutiny around DEI that the other grants in your in have throughout the year. There was a major change to the approach. The Biden administration had kind of said you have to include a lot about diversity, equity, and inclusion. The Trump administration has said you cannot include that in your grants. I recognize that's a whiplash. I'm not here to talk about the merits of all of that, but I do want to just acknowledge for those of you that are submitting November 1, December 1, January 1 grants, it's probably worth looking back at some prior resources that we have put out there and looking through these to identify where the what some of those triggers or flags might be, because that will delay your grant award further. Beyond that, and again, I don't want to go too far in the weeds on that because I know that is a challenge as well, and there's a lot there. But beyond that, it generally will take a week or two for programs to get the notice of grant awards approved. The administration is doing, from what we understand, they are doing everything that they can to get to waive systems and processes and move things forward. But there are still and they're aware that this is going to be something they have to prioritize. I would encourage all of you to be sure to send a note as soon as the government reopens, flagging your grant proposal, asking where it stands to try to put you on the radar of where things are. But again, I think that it will take some time. The question is, what can we do to get it as close to being ready as possible? Are agencies able to continue serving families after their grant funds end without using alternate funds, even without a notice of award? Yes, is the answer to that question. You should and can if you are able to. We understand not everybody is able to, but would encourage folks to do so to the maximum of their to the extent of their abilities. We are a 12-1 start date. We haven't received a notice of award and have received our 45-day notice this week for an FA2 on December 1st. I think it's probably a good idea to flag in the enterprise system and to your monitoring leads when they're connected to you just about this and let them know about what might be coming to your program if a shutdown continues. Again, we are hopeful and believe that this won't be an issue for the December one, but I do want to just acknowledge that that is something we'll need to pay attention to. And if the shutdown is still happening closer to in mid to late December, Darla will be in touch and happy to support you to try to see about pushing that forward. So for Head Start programs that are going to close or have closed, what do you think the time frame would be for those programs to reopen once the government reopens? This is again, it's going to be grant by grant. It's going to be specific based off of your circumstances. I do think that I know that there's a lot of agencies and programs that are thinking about the risks of will I be reimbursed for funds? Will I not? These types of things. When the government reopens, I think we will have definitive we'll be able to say definitively that you will be reimbursed. So for those of you that aren't sure or whatever, or are hesitant with some of the risk, I do think when the government reopens, you should reopen as quickly as you can physically. That will look different for each program. It will probably take a week or two, maybe up to 14 days, to be able to get your notice of grant award and to be able to draw down resources. But at that point, the Office of Head Start will be working and open, so you can flag for them about these types of issues, and they can be partners in helping you figure out what that decision would be. Anne, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, Tommy, we've been talking about how important it is for a program to have a plan regarding shutdown. Part of that plan should be if they're shutting down services, how quickly, what are the actions they're going to take to notify staff and families that they're up and running and the children should start coming. So I think that
Good
part of
point.
it, the communication part, how are you going to communicate? How quickly can you get the notices out to parents and staff? So I think, again, part of the plan.
One of the programs that the October 1 or November 1 programs that had said to us, they said, we kind of are embracing a COVID mindset. Just that we got to put children and families first and figure out how we can support them, communicate with them, do everything that we can. That type of mindset needs to be our priority. And then we'll figure out all the rest as we go. So, like, really almost a Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but for our children and our families first and foremost. And I think that that's a really smart strategy and good approach. Um, let's see here. I think I've addressed a few of these questions. What are your thoughts of the government reopen? Yeah, we've addressed that one. Um, the We are not a November 1 grantee, but we are a December 1st grantee. We are looking at having to potentially start our furlough process in the middle of November, which means notifying staff of layoffs that will occur. We have no contract like everyone else. We are in limbo. Agreed. And I think that it's important to be in touch with your members of Congress about this and putting the details about there. I think that would be really useful and helpful to put to be sharing with your members of Congress and getting that word out there as well. And yes, pay attention to the employment law practices, WARN Act, those types of things. But also, I think it's important to really tell everybody and be transparent about what is happening, what you know, what you are trying to do, and navigate all of this as well. If you have any further questions, you should feel free to reach out. We're going to keep going for another 4 minutes, but just I see a number of people asking for some more detail or more responses. Just email us at shutdownsupport@nhsa.org, and we can get back in touch with you if you have some very concrete or specific questions that are there. Last week, you mentioned new messaging would be proposed to be more urgent about these family issues. Is there anything being shared that we can amplify? Yes. In the link tree, you will see in that resource folder, there's a number of different things. Communications to families, talking points. Those updated talking points are probably the best way to leverage all of this. There's press release templates. We're going to keep adding things into that as well. And then I also want to acknowledge we are looking with some of our national partners of doing a major day of action. So getting very active on social media, getting the word out about the impacts on next Wednesday. More resources will be shared over email, and we'll talk more about this on Tuesday, but would really encourage all Head Start programs, whether you're November 1 or you are a July 1 grant, to look to engage and all stand together as a community here as well. We have funds in PMS that have been allocated but not drawn down. Would you recommend we pull these out before October 31st? Anne, do you want to address that one?
Sure. I mean, it would be nice if if you could spend your monies before October 31st. If you have, you can obligate those funds for those funds can be obligated and you have a 90-day expense, 90 days after the grant ends to expense those funds, but those funds have to be expended for things that you were obligated to do in your current budget period. So you can't draw down funds and then use them after October 31st to cover November expenses. Did you understand that, Tommy? I just want to make sure I'm clear.
I think so. I mean, I did, but
Okay.
so basically, if you normally would be drawing those funds down, then absolutely. If not, then you might run into some tripwires with the defend the spend and some of these other types of things as well. Couple additional questions. We're getting close to the hour, but some really important ones. Have we been made aware that drawdown systems will be unavailable or available after November 1st for programs that are operating? Yes, this is really important to be clear on this. PMS and all of the other drawdown systems and things like that will be available for the foreseeable future. There's no reason the administration is not intending to shut them down. They have identified those systems as critical infrastructure and essential kind of for the bare bone staff. So know that you will, no matter when your grant year starts, that if you have access to the payment management system and can draw resources down, that will be allowable, that will be open. If you have issues with it, or you're not getting responses, or you're not getting your drawdown, reach out to us as soon as possible. If you have how do we reach out to you if we want to share our monitoring experience? I think probably the best way is just to drop us a note to advocacy@nhsa.org, or the shutdown support message works too, but advocacy@nhsa.org, or just reach out to any one of us individually, frankly, and we'll share it among ourselves as a group and figure out how we can navigate some of those. Not seeing the SF 429 option for October submission. How should we handle this, Anne?
Again, we've heard that from other programs. I think you write again, this is just to HSAS saying we tried to access it. If it's not available, then we're not going to be able to do it timely. Please let us know when it becomes available. And that's what I would write. And I would also say that we would also remind OHS that folks are saying that these options to do these reports are not available this time. But again, document. You tried and were unable.
Seeing a lot of questions in here about what happens, like, can you continue operating if you want to, if you can use other funds? Is that legal? Is that allowable? All of these things. I think the short answer to that is yes, it is allowable, and it is something that you should do if you are able to do it. I do think that this is something that will prove to your communities and prove to the administration and to everybody in the country that Head Start prioritizes kids and families, and we're going to do everything in our power to stay open. However, at some point, goodwill and dedication is not going to be able to fund Head Start programs. So we recognize that is not something that's going to be able to operate forever, but it is important that if you are able to, that you try to. Again, we do believe that you will be reimbursed, and we cannot say with 100% certainty, but I will say that we're feel very strongly that programs will be reimbursed, or that we're going to die trying to make that happen. And I think that is an important piece to acknowledge. I know a lot of school districts have been helpful. I know a lot of states have been helpful, things of that kind too. All right, I want to keep going on all these questions, but we are at time, so let's go ahead and wrap up here. I just wanna acknowledge and say again, just a big thank you to all of you. This is a really tough time to be navigating everything, but you know what? Head Start isn't here because it's easy. We don't show up because it's something that's easy to do. We do it because it's the right thing to do, and we do it because we know that our children and our families deserve no less. We're going to continue with these Tuesday, Thursday calls through next week. We are going to continue to be in touch with our October, November 1 grants. We will start being more in touch with the December 1 grants, either next week or the week after. Please, if you have any, please use our resources. Keep an eye on the link tree for additional resources. Stay in touch with your members of Congress. Stay in touch with your children and your families and your staff. And if there is opportunity to draw attention to the realities of what Head Start's going through with your local press, please do so. If you need any support with press, email us at media@nhsa.org. You all are so impressive. We're so honored to be right there besides you, and hope that everybody is able to have somewhat of a restful weekend. And again, no offense to all of you, but hopefully we don't have to talk next Tuesday and Thursday. Hopefully the government will shut down. I'm going to keep saying it and keep trying to manifest that. So join me in doing that. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you to my colleagues, and we'll all talk soon.